Question 1. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a critical network segment is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting user productivity. A senior executive requests an immediate configuration change on a core router to bypass a security inspection module, citing the need to restore full performance without delay. The executive emphasizes that this is a temporary measure and insists on the change being made immediately to resolve the issue. What is the most appropriate course of action for the network engineer? Option A. Implement the configuration change immediately and then inform the security team of the bypass, requesting their guidance on how to document it retrospectively. Option B. Implement the configuration change immediately as requested by the executive to restore performance, and then document the change and its justification afterward. Option C. Document the proposed bypass, conduct a rapid risk assessment of the security implications, and present findings and alternative solutions to the executive for approval before proceeding. Option D. Refuse to implement the change, stating that bypassing security modules is never acceptable under any circumstances, and inform the executive that the performance issue must be resolved through other means. Correct answer is C. Document the proposed bypass, conduct a rapid risk assessment of the security implications, and present findings and alternative solutions to the executive for approval before proceeding. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the CCIE routing and switching curriculum's emphasis on network design and implementation, specifically concerning the ethical implications of network configuration choices. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate operational need for a functional network with the long-term security and integrity of the network infrastructure, especially when faced with pressure from stakeholders who may not fully grasp the technical or security ramifications. The ethical dilemma arises from the potential for a seemingly simple configuration change to introduce significant vulnerabilities or violate established best practices, and potentially regulatory compliance if applicable to the specific network environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach, which involves a thorough risk assessment and adherence to established change management protocols, represents best professional practice because it prioritizes network security, stability, and compliance. This aligns with the CCIE expectation of engineers who can design, implement, and troubleshoot complex networks responsibly. By documenting the proposed change, evaluating its potential impact on security and performance, and obtaining appropriate approvals, the engineer upholds principles of due diligence and accountability. This methodical process ensures that any network modification is understood, justified, and implemented in a controlled manner, minimizing the risk of unintended consequences and maintaining the integrity of the network. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves implementing the change immediately without proper documentation or assessment. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure because it bypasses essential security and operational controls. It demonstrates a disregard for established change management processes, which are often in place to prevent network outages, security breaches, and compliance violations. Such an action could lead to unforeseen network instability, security vulnerabilities, and a lack of auditable trail, making it impossible to trace the cause of future issues. Another incorrect approach is to refuse to implement the change at all, citing general security concerns without providing specific technical justifications or alternative solutions. While security is paramount, an outright refusal without constructive engagement can hinder operational progress and demonstrate a lack of problem-solving initiative. Ethically, engineers have a responsibility to find solutions that balance security with business needs. Failing to do so, or failing to communicate the risks and potential mitigations effectively, can be seen as a dereliction of duty. A third incorrect approach involves implementing the change and then attempting to retroactively justify it. This is a serious ethical lapse and a regulatory failure. It implies a lack of transparency and accountability. Network changes should be planned and approved before implementation. Retroactive justification suggests a willingness to circumvent established procedures and potentially hide the true nature or impact of the change, undermining trust and the integrity of network operations. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a dilemma should follow a structured decision-making process. First, they must clearly understand the request and its stated purpose. Second, they should immediately identify any potential risks or conflicts with existing policies, security best practices, or regulatory requirements relevant to their operational environment. Third, they should conduct a thorough risk assessment, documenting potential impacts on security, performance, and stability. Fourth, they should communicate these findings clearly and concisely to the requesting stakeholder, explaining the risks and proposing alternative solutions or mitigation strategies. Fifth, they should adhere strictly to the organization's change management process, ensuring all necessary approvals are obtained before any implementation. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with professional ethics and organizational governance. Question 2. Quality control measures reveal that a candidate, while preparing for the CCIE routing and switching written exam, has discovered a subtle but significant logical inconsistency in the way a specific routing protocol behavior is described in the official study materials, which could lead to misinterpretation and incorrect answers on the exam. The candidate is concerned that this flaw, if unaddressed, could unfairly penalize future candidates who rely on the provided material. Option A. Discuss the discovered inconsistency with fellow candidates in online forums to alert them and potentially help them navigate the flawed material. Option B. Ignore the inconsistency, assuming it is a minor oversight that will not significantly impact the exam results for the majority of candidates. Option C. Attempt to leverage the inconsistency to their advantage during the exam, hoping to gain an edge over other candidates. Option D. Immediately report the identified inconsistency to Cisco through the official examination feedback mechanism, ensuring the report is detailed and specific without discussing it with other candidates. Correct answer is D. Immediately report the identified inconsistency to Cisco through the official examination feedback mechanism, ensuring the report is detailed and specific without discussing it with other candidates. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the CCIE routing and switching candidate's ethical obligation to uphold the integrity of the certification process. The candidate has discovered a significant flaw in the exam's testing methodology that could unfairly disadvantage future candidates. This situation requires careful judgment because it involves balancing personal responsibility, the potential impact on others, and the established procedures for reporting exam-related issues. The candidate must decide whether to remain silent, potentially benefiting from the flaw in the short term but compromising their ethical standing, or to report it, which could lead to personal inconvenience but upholds the fairness of the certification. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves immediately and discreetly reporting the identified flaw to the examination administrators through the designated channels. This aligns with the ethical guidelines and professional conduct expected of CCIE candidates. The Cisco certification program, like many professional certifications, relies on the integrity of its examination process. By reporting the flaw, the candidate actively contributes to maintaining that integrity, ensuring a fair testing environment for all future candidates. This action demonstrates a commitment to professional ethics, a willingness to act responsibly even when it might be personally inconvenient, and a respect for the standards of the CCIE certification. This is the best professional practice as it prioritizes the fairness and validity of the certification over any personal advantage or avoidance of potential minor disruption. Incorrect approach is analysis. Failing to report the flaw, or attempting to exploit it, represents a severe ethical failure. This inaction or malicious intent undermines the credibility of the CCIE certification and is a direct violation of the trust placed in candidates. It creates an unfair advantage for those who might discover and exploit the flaw, while disadvantaging honest candidates. Such behavior is unprofessional and could lead to severe consequences, including disqualification from the certification and potential blacklisting from future Cisco certification. Another incorrect approach would be to discuss the flaw openly with other candidates before or during their exams. This could be construed as an attempt to collaterally influence the examination process or to spread potentially disruptive information, compromising the controlled environment of the exam. It also bypasses the proper reporting channels, failing to provide the examination body with the opportunity to address the issue systematically. Professional reasoning. Professionals in technical fields, especially those pursuing advanced certifications like CCIE, are expected to act with integrity and a strong ethical compass, When faced with a situation that could compromise the fairness or validity of a process, the decision-making framework should prioritize 1. Identification of the issue, clearly recognizing the problem and its potential impact. 2. Adherence to established procedures, following the official channels for reporting concerns. 3. Prioritization of fairness and integrity, ensuring that the process remains equitable for all participants. 4. Confidentiality and discretion, handling sensitive information responsibly to avoid undue disruption or exploitation. 5. Long-term professional reputation, understanding that ethical conduct builds trust and credibility, which are invaluable in the long run. Question 3. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of service disruption if unauthorized configuration changes are made to the core routing infrastructure. A business unit manager contacts you directly, stating an urgent need to reroute traffic for a critical application within the next hour, citing a potential loss of revenue if the change is delayed. They have not submitted a formal change request and are pressuring you to implement the change immediately. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Escalate the request to your direct manager and the security team, providing them with the business unit manager's urgent request and your assessment of the potential risks. Option B. Inform the business unit manager that you cannot proceed without a formal request and then proceed with your scheduled non-urgent tasks. Option C. Politely explain the necessity of following the established change management process, including submitting a formal request and awaiting approval, to ensure proper risk assessment and minimize potential disruption. Option D. Immediately implement the requested configuration change to avoid potential revenue loss, as the business unit manager has deemed it critical. The correct answer is C. Politely explain the necessity of following the established change management process, including submitting a formal request and awaiting approval, to ensure proper risk assessment and minimize potential disruption. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining network integrity and responding to a perceived urgent business need that may not be fully validated. The CCIE routing and switching certification emphasizes not only technical proficiency, but also the responsible application of that knowledge within an organizational context. The core dilemma lies in balancing the potential risks of unauthorized or poorly planned changes against the perceived benefits of immediate action. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any network modification is justified, documented, and executed in a manner that minimizes disruption and maintains security. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, risk-aware process for network changes. This aligns with industry best practices and the implicit ethical obligation of a network professional to safeguard the stability and security of the infrastructure. By seeking proper authorization and adhering to change management procedures, the professional demonstrates accountability and ensures that the proposed change is evaluated for its impact, necessity, and potential risks. This methodical approach prevents ad hoc modifications that could lead to unforeseen outages, security vulnerabilities, or compliance issues. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the change without proper authorization is professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a significant ethical failure, as it bypasses established control mechanisms designed to protect the network. Such an action undermines the authority of management and the change control board, potentially leading to unauthorized access or configuration errors that could have severe consequences. It also demonstrates a lack of respect for the established operational procedures and the collective responsibility for network stability. Another incorrect approach, that of ignoring the request due to a lack of immediate understanding, is also professionally deficient. While caution is warranted, outright dismissal without attempting to gather more information or escalate the concern is not proactive. It fails to acknowledge the potential business impact and misses an opportunity to clarify the request and guide the requester towards the appropriate change management process. This can lead to frustration for business units and a perception of unresponsiveness from the IT team. The professional reasoning framework for similar situations should involve a multi-step process. First, acknowledge the request and its perceived urgency. Second, attempt to understand the business justification and the specific technical requirements. Third, assess the potential risks and impact of the proposed change. Fourth, if the request appears valid but requires a formal process, clearly communicate the necessary steps, e.g., submitting a change request, attending a change advisory board meeting. Fifth, If the request is unclear or potentially harmful, escalate it to appropriate management or security personnel. This structured decision-making process ensures that network changes are handled responsibly, balancing business needs with operational stability and security. Question 4. The analysis reveals that a critical network service is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting user productivity. While investigating, a network engineer identifies a potential configuration change that could resolve the issue. However, implementing this change requires adherence to the organization's formal change control process, which involves a review and approval cycle that could take several business days. The engineer believes they can implement the fix immediately and then submit the change request retrospectively. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Immediately implement the configuration change to restore service, and then submit a retrospective change request with a detailed explanation of the urgency and the implemented solution. Option B. Seek informal approval from a senior colleague to implement the change immediately, bypassing the formal change control process, and then document the change. Option C. Implement the configuration change without formal approval, assuming that if it resolves the issue it will be accepted, and inform management of the action taken after the fact. Option D. Initiate the formal change control process, clearly documenting the problem, the proposed solution, and the potential impact of delay, and await approval before implementing the change. The correct answer is A. Immediately implement the configuration change to restore service, and then submit a retrospective change request with a detailed explanation of the urgency and the implemented solution. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in network engineering, where a perceived shortcut could lead to a violation of established operational procedures and potentially compromise network integrity. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for a solution with the long-term implications of bypassing documented processes. Adhering to the CCIE routing and switching written exams implied regulatory framework, which emphasizes best practices, security, and operational stability, is paramount. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, documented, and approved method for implementing changes. This aligns with the principles of change management, which are critical for maintaining network stability and security. By following the established change control process, the engineer ensures that the proposed modification is reviewed, tested, and approved by relevant stakeholders, minimizing the risk of unintended consequences. This also ensures accountability and provides a clear audit trail. An incorrect approach that involves directly implementing the change without authorization or documentation is professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a failure to adhere to operational policies and procedures, which are in place to prevent network disruptions and security breaches. Such an action bypasses critical review and testing phases, increasing the likelihood of introducing errors or vulnerabilities. It also undermines the principle of accountability and can lead to a lack of transparency in network operations. Another incorrect approach, which involves seeking informal approval from a single peer without following the formal change control process, is also professionally flawed. While collaboration is important, informal approvals do not carry the weight of formal authorization and may not involve a comprehensive risk assessment. This approach still circumvents the established governance structure, designed to ensure thorough evaluation and approval of network changes. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the organization's change management policies and procedures. When faced with a need for a network modification, the engineer should first assess the urgency and impact of the change. If the change is not critical and can wait, the standard change control process should be followed. If the change is urgent, the engineer should consult the change management policy for expedited procedures or escalation paths. In all cases, documenting the proposed change, its rationale, and the approval process is essential for maintaining network integrity and accountability. Question 5. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent increase in packet loss on a critical data path between two core routers, impacting application performance. Network engineers are tasked with resolving this issue. Which of the following approaches represents the most professional and effective method for diagnosing and resolving the problem? Option A. Immediately replace the network interface cards, NIC, on both core routers, assuming a hardware failure is the most probable cause. Option B. Escalate the issue to the vendor's advanced support team without performing any initial local diagnostics. Option C. Perform a systematic diagnostic process, starting with verifying the physical layer connectivity and interface statistics on the affected routers, followed by examining routing table entries and traffic flow patterns for anomalies. Option D. Initiate a full network-wide firmware upgrade on all network devices to ensure consistency and potentially resolve underlying software anomalies. The correct answer is D. Initiate a full network-wide firmware upgrade on all network devices to ensure consistency and potentially resolve underlying software anomalies. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network operations where performance degradation is observed, but the root cause is not immediately obvious. The professional challenge lies in efficiently and effectively diagnosing the issue without causing further disruption or violating operational policies. The need for a systematic approach is paramount, especially when dealing with critical infrastructure where downtime can have significant business and potentially regulatory implications. Although specific regulatory frameworks are not directly invoked by the technical nature of this question, the principle of due diligence and operational integrity is implied. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a methodical investigation starting with the most likely and least intrusive causes, isolating the problem to a specific segment or device, then examining its configuration and immediate environment, is the most professional and efficient method. This aligns with best practices in network troubleshooting, which prioritize minimizing impact and maximizing diagnostic accuracy. By systematically narrowing down the possibilities, engineers can identify the root cause without unnecessary changes or broad-stroke interventions. This approach demonstrates a commitment to operational stability and efficient resource utilization. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a broad configuration change across the entire network without pinpointing the source of the issue is a significant professional failure. It risks exacerbating the problem, impacting unrelated services, and causing widespread disruption. This approach lacks diagnostic rigor and demonstrates a disregard for the potential consequences of unverified changes. It is the antithesis of professional network management, which demands precision and evidence-based decision-making. Another incorrect approach involves immediately escalating the issue to a higher support tier without performing initial, fundamental troubleshooting steps. While escalation is sometimes necessary, bypassing basic diagnostics is inefficient and can lead to unnecessary delays and costs. It suggests a lack of confidence in fundamental skills or an unwillingness to engage in the problem-solving process, which is unprofessional. Finally, assuming the issue is hardware failure and initiating hardware replacement without thorough software and configuration checks is premature and potentially wasteful. Hardware issues are often less common than configuration or software-related problems. This approach bypasses crucial diagnostic steps and can lead to unnecessary expenditure and downtime if the problem is indeed elsewhere. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations with a structured troubleshooting methodology. This typically involves 1. Define the problem, clearly understand the symptoms and scope. 2. Gather information, collect logs, monitoring data, and user reports. 3. Identify potential causes, brainstorm a list of possible reasons. 4. Test hypotheses, systematically test each potential cause, starting with the simplest and most probable. 5. Implement solutions, apply fixes based on confirmed causes. 6. Verify the solution, ensure the problem is resolved and no new issues have arisen. 7. Document the process, record findings, actions, and outcomes for future reference. This systematic process ensures efficiency, minimizes risk, and promotes continuous learning. Question 6. Benchmark analysis indicates a gradual increase in latency and packet loss across a critical production network segment, impacting several key business applications. The network infrastructure comprises Cisco routers and switches from multiple vendors. Which of the following approaches is the most effective for diagnosing and resolving this issue? Option A. Immediately reconfigure quality of service. CoS policies on all core routers, assuming that traffic prioritization is the most likely cause of the performance degradation. Option B. Focus troubleshooting efforts solely on the application servers and their configurations, as application performance issues often manifest as network problems. Option C. Initiate a comprehensive network health check, starting with physical layer verification, followed by an analysis of routing protocol adjacencies, traffic patterns, interface utilization, and device resource utilization, CPU/memory, before examining CoS configurations. Option D. Begin by replacing the oldest router in the suspected segment, as hardware aging is a common cause of intermittent network performance issues. The correct answer is C. Initiate a comprehensive network health check, starting with physical layer verification, followed by an analysis of routing protocol adjacencies, traffic patterns, interface utilization, and device resource utilization, CPU/memory, before examining CoS configurations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network engineering where performance metrics, such as latency and packet loss, degrade over time, impacting application performance and user experience. The professional challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the root cause of this degradation within a complex, multi-vendor routing and switching environment, while adhering to established operational procedures and potentially service-level agreements, SLAs. The pressure to restore service quickly, coupled with the need for a systematic and justifiable approach, requires careful judgment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, top-down methodology, starting with broad network health checks and progressively narrowing down the scope. This begins with verifying the physical layer and basic connectivity, then examining routing protocol adjacencies and convergence times, followed by an analysis of traffic patterns and utilization on key interfaces. Finally, it delves into device-specific metrics like CPU and memory utilization, and the configuration of quality of service, CoS mechanisms. This systematic process ensures that all potential causes are considered in a logical order, minimizing the risk of overlooking critical issues or implementing unnecessary changes. It aligns with best practices for network troubleshooting, emphasizing data-driven decision-making and the isolation of variables. This methodical approach is crucial for maintaining network stability and ensuring compliance with performance expectations, which are often implicitly or explicitly part of service agreements. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately assuming a specific component, such as a particular router or link, is faulty and proceeding with configuration changes or replacements without comprehensive diagnostics. This is professionally unsound because it bypasses the critical step of root cause analysis, potentially leading to wasted resources, further network disruption, and failure to address the actual problem. Ethically, it can be seen as negligent if it leads to prolonged outages or performance degradation due to a lack of due diligence. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on application-level symptoms without correlating them to network behavior. While application issues can manifest as network problems, a network engineer's responsibility is to assess the network's role in the performance degradation. Ignoring network-specific metrics and focusing only on application logs or user reports is a failure to adhere to professional responsibilities within the scope of network operations. This can lead to misallocation of troubleshooting efforts and prolonged resolution times. A third incorrect approach is to make widespread, uncoordinated configuration changes across multiple devices in an attempt to fix the problem. This is a highly risky strategy that can introduce new, more severe issues and make subsequent troubleshooting exponentially more difficult. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of network interdependencies and a failure to follow change management best practices, which are essential for maintaining network integrity and accountability. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic troubleshooting methodology that begins with understanding the reported symptoms and then proceeds through a layered approach to network diagnostics. This involves 1. Gathering comprehensive data. Collect relevant logs, performance metrics, and configuration information from affected devices and network segments. 2. Hypothesis generation. Based on the data, form educated guesses about potential root causes. 3. Testing hypotheses. Systematically test each hypothesis by performing targeted checks and, if necessary, controlled experiments. 4. Isolation of the fault. Narrow down the problem to a specific device, link, or configuration element. 5. Resolution and verification. Implement the solution and thoroughly verify that the issue is resolved and no new problems have been introduced. 6. Documentation. Record the problem, the troubleshooting steps taken, and the resolution for future reference and knowledge sharing. This structured process ensures that troubleshooting is efficient, effective, and minimizes the risk of unintended consequences, thereby upholding professional standards and ensuring network reliability. Question 7. The assessment process reveals that a large enterprise network is experiencing intermittent latency issues impacting critical business applications. The network engineering team has identified several potential areas for optimization within the routing and switching infrastructure, including route summarization, co-S policy adjustments, and multicast traffic optimization. The team is under pressure to resolve these issues quickly to improve user experience and application performance. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for performance optimization with the imperative of maintaining network stability and adhering to operational best practices? Option A. Make configuration changes based on the most common recommendations found in online forums and industry white papers, assuming these will yield the best results for the specific network. Option B. Implement all identified optimizations simultaneously across the entire network to achieve the fastest possible results and observe the overall impact. Option C. Focus solely on adjusting co-S policies, as this is the most direct method for addressing latency, and defer other optimizations until the co-S changes have proven effective. Option D. Prioritize and implement optimizations one by one in a controlled, staged manner, with thorough pre- and post-implementation testing and monitoring for each change. Correct answer is B. Implement all identified optimizations simultaneously across the entire network to achieve the fastest possible results and observe the overall impact. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge in network operations: optimizing the performance of a complex routing and switching infrastructure without introducing instability or violating established operational procedures. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a deep understanding of network protocols, traffic patterns, and the potential ripple effects of configuration changes. The pressure to demonstrate tangible improvements in performance must be balanced against the critical need for network stability and adherence to change management policies, which are often dictated by internal IT governance and potentially by industry best practices that inform regulatory compliance in terms of service availability and data integrity. The correct approach, which involves a phased, controlled implementation with thorough pre- and post-implementation testing, represents best professional practice. This methodology aligns with principles of risk management and operational excellence. By isolating changes, monitoring key performance indicators, KPI, and having a rollback plan, engineers minimize the risk of widespread service disruption. This controlled approach is implicitly supported by regulatory frameworks that emphasize business continuity and the reliable delivery of services, especially in environments handling sensitive data or critical business functions. The emphasis on documentation and validation ensures accountability and facilitates future troubleshooting, contributing to overall network resilience. Incorrect approaches, such as making broad, unverified configuration changes or relying solely on anecdotal evidence of improvement, represent significant regulatory and ethical failures. Making sweeping changes without proper testing can lead to unforeseen network outages, violating service level agreements, SLAs, and potentially impacting regulatory compliance related to data availability and security. Relying on subjective observations rather than objective data is unprofessional and can mask underlying issues, leading to a false sense of security. Furthermore, bypassing established change control processes is a direct violation of internal governance and can have severe consequences, including security vulnerabilities and audit failures. Such actions demonstrate a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the integrity of the network infrastructure. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a systematic process. First, clearly define the problem and the desired outcome. Second, research and evaluate potential solutions, considering their impact on stability and security. Third, develop a detailed implementation plan that includes testing, monitoring, and rollback procedures. Fourth, obtain necessary approvals through the change management process. Fifth, execute the plan meticulously, documenting every step and observing results. Finally, conduct a post-implementation review to validate success and identify lessons learned. This structured approach ensures that optimizations are achieved responsibly and sustainably. Question 8. The control framework reveals that a critical routing update is required to address a potential security vulnerability identified in a widely used routing protocol. The update is urgent, but the network is currently operating at peak capacity, and a full network-wide outage is not feasible during business hours. Which approach best balances the need for timely remediation with operational stability and risk mitigation? Option A. Schedule the update during the next planned maintenance window, ensuring thorough lab testing and developing a detailed rollback plan. Option B. Immediately implement the update across all affected devices during peak hours to address the vulnerability as quickly as possible. Option C. Bypass the standard change control process to expedite the deployment of the security update. Option D. Apply the update to a subset of non-critical devices first, then monitor performance before proceeding with the rest of the network. The correct answer is A. Schedule the update during the next planned maintenance window, ensuring thorough lab testing and developing a detailed rollback plan. Explanation: the control framework reveals a common challenge in network operations: optimizing process efficiency without compromising security or compliance. In a CCIE routing and switching context, this translates to ensuring that network changes, particularly those impacting routing protocols, are implemented in a way that minimizes disruption and adheres to established operational procedures. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid deployment of necessary network adjustments with the inherent risks of introducing errors or vulnerabilities. This requires a thorough understanding of the network's current state, the potential impact of changes, and robust validation mechanisms. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, risk-averse methodology, implementing changes during a scheduled maintenance window, after thorough testing in a lab environment, and with a rollback plan in place, directly addresses the potential for service disruption and security breaches. This aligns with the principles of change management, which are implicitly governed by operational best practices and the need to maintain service availability and integrity. While specific regulations for network operations are not detailed in the 400-101 exam syllabus itself, the underlying principles of responsible network management, which are tested, demand such diligence. Incorrect approaches fail to meet professional standards due to several reasons. Implementing changes without prior lab testing introduces an unacceptable level of risk, as unforeseen issues can directly impact the production environment. This demonstrates a disregard for operational stability and could lead to extended outages, impacting business continuity. Making changes without a documented rollback plan is equally problematic. It leaves the network vulnerable if the implemented changes cause adverse effects, prolonging recovery time and potentially causing further damage. Finally, bypassing the change control process, even for seemingly minor adjustments, undermines the integrity of operational procedures and can lead to a lack of accountability and an increased likelihood of errors. These failures represent a lack of professional judgment and a disregard for the principles of sound network engineering. Professional reasoning in such situations involves a systematic evaluation of risk versus reward. Before any change, a network engineer must ask, what is the potential impact of this change? Have I tested this thoroughly? What is my plan if it goes wrong? Is this change aligned with our established operational procedures and change control policies? This structured thinking process, prioritizing stability, security, and adherence to process, is crucial for effective network management. Question 9. The audit findings indicate that the core routing infrastructure is experiencing intermittent packet loss and increased latency during peak hours, impacting critical business applications. The current network design utilizes a static routing configuration across multiple distribution layers. Which of the following approaches best addresses the identified process optimization needs for improved network performance and scalability? Option A. Implement dynamic routing protocols such as OSP or IGAP to enable automatic route recalculation and faster convergence in response to network changes. Option B. Increase the bandwidth of all links in the core routing infrastructure by 50% to accommodate higher traffic volumes. Option C. Replace the existing core routers with higher specification hardware without analyzing current traffic patterns or protocol efficiency. Option D. Manually adjust static route metrics and administrative distances to favor specific paths during peak traffic periods. The correct answer is A. Implement dynamic routing protocols such as OSP or IGAP to enable automatic route recalculation and faster convergence in response to network changes. Explanation: The audit findings indicate a potential bottleneck in the network's ability to handle increasing traffic demands, impacting application performance and user experience. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a proactive approach to network design and optimization, balancing current operational needs with future scalability requirements. The CCIE routing and switching certification emphasizes the ability to design, implement, and troubleshoot complex enterprise networks, which includes understanding and applying process optimization techniques to ensure network resilience and efficiency. The correct approach involves a systematic analysis of traffic patterns, device utilization, and protocol efficiency to identify areas for improvement. This might include implementing quality of service, (QoS) policies to prioritize critical traffic, optimizing routing protocols for faster convergence and reduced overhead, or leveraging advanced features like NetFlow for granular traffic visibility. This represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified performance issues with data-driven solutions, aligning with the principles of network engineering excellence and the implicit requirement to maintain a high-performing and reliable network infrastructure. Adhering to industry best practices and vendor recommendations, as would be expected in a CCIE-level scenario, ensures that the implemented solutions are robust, scalable, and maintainable. An incorrect approach would be to simply increase bandwidth without understanding the root cause of the performance degradation. This is a reactive measure that fails to address underlying inefficiencies and can lead to wasted resources. It also ignores the potential for protocol misconfigurations or suboptimal routing that might be contributing to the problem. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a complex, untested solution without proper validation or rollback plans. This introduces unnecessary risk and could further destabilize the network, violating the professional responsibility to maintain network stability and security. A third incorrect approach would be to ignore the audit findings altogether, assuming the current configuration is sufficient. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and foresight, failing to meet the professional obligation to proactively manage and optimize network resources. Professionals should approach such situations by first thoroughly understanding the audit findings and the specific symptoms of network degradation. This involves gathering data, analyzing traffic flows, and identifying the precise points of congestion or inefficiency. The next step is to formulate potential solutions, prioritizing those that are data-driven, cost-effective, and align with long-term network strategy. Before implementing any changes, thorough testing and validation in a lab environment or during a scheduled maintenance window are crucial. Finally, a clear rollback plan should always be in place to mitigate any unforeseen negative impacts. Question 10. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in packet loss and latency on a critical customer-facing application path. The network engineer needs to identify the source of this degradation without causing further service interruption. Option A. Begin disabling non-critical network services and features one by one to see if performance improves. Option B. Deploy a new, more aggressive SNMP polling interval for all devices along the path to gather more granular real-time data. Option C. Initiate a series of targeted ping and traceroute tests from multiple points within the network towards the application servers, analyzing the results for packet loss and latency at each hop. Option D. Immediately implement a broad QoS policy to deprioritize all non-essential traffic, assuming congestion is the primary cause. The correct answer is C. Initiate a series of targeted ping and traceroute tests from multiple points within the network towards the application servers, analyzing the results for packet loss and latency at each hop. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in network operations, identifying and rectifying performance degradation without disrupting critical services. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for immediate troubleshooting with the potential impact of intrusive diagnostic steps on a live, production environment. Network engineers must possess a deep understanding of their network's architecture, traffic patterns, and the capabilities of diagnostic tools to select the most effective and least disruptive approach. Adherence to established operational procedures and change management protocols is paramount to prevent unintended consequences. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes non-disruptive methods for initial analysis. Utilizing passive monitoring tools and analyzing existing logs allows for data collection without altering network state or introducing new traffic. This aligns with the principle of minimizing risk in production environments. Furthermore, it allows for a data-driven decision-making process, ensuring that any subsequent, more active troubleshooting steps are targeted and justified. This methodical approach is essential for maintaining network stability and service availability, which are critical for business operations. An incorrect approach that involves immediately implementing aggressive traffic shaping or rerouting without a clear understanding of the root cause is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to unintended service disruptions, impacting users and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs. Such actions lack a data-driven basis and represent a reactive, rather than proactive, troubleshooting methodology. Another incorrect approach, such as disabling specific features or protocols without prior analysis, is also problematic. This is a blunt instrument that could inadvertently break legitimate traffic flows or mask the true underlying issue, making future diagnosis more difficult. It demonstrates a lack of systematic problem-solving and a disregard for the interconnected nature of network components. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach. 1. Initial assessment. Gather all available data from monitoring systems, logs, and user reports. 2. Non-disruptive analysis. Employ passive tools and techniques to understand traffic patterns, identify anomalies, and pinpoint potential problem areas. 3. Hypothesis formulation. Based on the gathered data, develop a hypothesis about the root cause of the performance issue. 4. Targeted troubleshooting. If non-disruptive methods are insufficient, plan and execute targeted, low-impact diagnostic steps, adhering to change management procedures. 5. Validation and remediation. Verify the effectiveness of any implemented changes and document the resolution. Question 11. Benchmark analysis indicates that the current network infrastructure is experiencing increased latency and reduced throughput during peak hours, impacting application performance. A team has proposed several strategies to address this, which approach best balances performance enhancement with operational stability and risk mitigation. Option A. Implement a carefully planned pilot deployment of a proven traffic shaping technology on a segment of the network experiencing the most significant degradation, with comprehensive monitoring of key performance indicators and a defined rollback plan. Option B. Introduce a new experimental routing protocol across the entire network to dynamically reroute traffic based on theoretical performance gains. Option C. Immediately deploy a complex, multi-vendor quality of service, (QoS) policy across all core routers to prioritize critical traffic, assuming it will resolve the performance issues without extensive testing. Option D. Focus solely on increasing the bandwidth of all links by 50% without analyzing traffic patterns or the root cause of the current congestion. The correct answer is A. Implement a carefully planned pilot deployment of a proven traffic shaping technology on a segment of the network experiencing the most significant degradation, with comprehensive monitoring of key performance indicators and a defined rollback plan. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in network operations, optimizing performance under resource constraints. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for enhanced throughput and reduced latency with the potential for unintended consequences, such as increased complexity, instability, or violation of established service-level agreements, SLAs, or operational policies. Careful judgment is required to select an optimization strategy that is both effective and compliant with the network's design principles and any applicable regulatory or organizational guidelines. The correct approach focuses on a phased, controlled implementation of a well-understood optimization technique, prioritizing minimal disruption and thorough validation. This represents best professional practice because it adheres to principles of sound network engineering, emphasizing predictability and risk mitigation. By starting with a pilot deployment and monitoring key performance indicators, KPI, it allows for early detection of issues and ensures that the changes align with expected outcomes and do not negatively impact service availability or performance beyond acceptable thresholds. This methodical approach is crucial for maintaining network integrity and meeting operational objectives. An incorrect approach that immediately implements a complex, untested optimization across the entire network without prior validation poses significant regulatory and ethical risks. Such an action could lead to widespread service degradation or outages, potentially violating contractual obligations with customers or internal stakeholders regarding network uptime and performance. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for due diligence and a failure to adequately assess and manage risk. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on theoretical gains without considering practical implementation challenges or the impact on existing infrastructure, can lead to wasted resources and further instability. This demonstrates a lack of practical understanding and a failure to integrate optimization efforts with the realities of the operational environment. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing a single, potentially unproven technology without a comprehensive understanding of its interaction with the existing network architecture, risks introducing unforeseen conflicts and vulnerabilities, which could have significant operational and security implications. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of the current network state, clear definition of optimization goals, research into various optimization techniques and their potential impacts, a risk assessment for each technique, and a phased implementation plan with robust monitoring and rollback capabilities. Prioritizing solutions that offer a clear return on investment, are well documented, and have a proven track record in similar environments is also essential. Question 12. Assessment of the most effective network engineering strategy for resolving performance degradation of a critical business application, where initial stakeholder reports indicate intermittent latency and packet loss, and the network infrastructure is a complex, multi-vendor environment. Option A. Implement quality of service, (QoS), policies to prioritize the critical application's traffic based on detailed traffic analysis and application requirements. Option B. Advise stakeholders that network performance issues are often transient and will likely resolve on their own with time. Option C. Immediately upgrade the bandwidth across all network segments to ensure sufficient capacity for all traffic. Option D. Propose a complete overhaul of the routing architecture with a new, experimental routing protocol to improve path efficiency. The correct answer is A. Implement quality of service, (QoS), policies to prioritize the critical application's traffic based on detailed traffic analysis and application requirements. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network design where a critical business application's performance is degraded due to network congestion. Challenge lies in identifying the root cause and implementing a solution that balances performance requirements with operational constraints and potential impact on other services. The stakeholder perspective is crucial, as different departments may have conflicting priorities or understandings of the issue. A technically sound solution must also be justifiable from a business and operational standpoint. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation. This begins with understanding the application's specific requirements, e.g., latency, jitter, bandwidth, and then correlating these with network performance metrics. Utilizing network monitoring tools to analyze traffic patterns, identify bottlenecks, and pinpoint the source of congestion is paramount. Implementing quality of service, (QoS) mechanisms, such as traffic shaping or policing, to prioritize the critical application's traffic is a standard and effective network engineering practice. This approach is best professional practice because it directly addresses the technical cause of the problem, minimizes disruption to other services by selectively managing traffic, and provides a measurable improvement aligned with business needs. It adheres to the principles of efficient network resource utilization and service level agreement, SLA fulfillment, which are implicit expectations in professional network management. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a blanket bandwidth upgrade without understanding the specific traffic patterns or the application's actual needs is an inefficient and potentially costly solution. It fails to address the root cause if the issue is not solely bandwidth, but rather traffic prioritization or latency. This approach risks overspending and may not resolve the problem if other factors like buffer bloat or suboptimal routing are at play. Ignoring the issue and waiting for it to resolve itself is professionally negligent. It demonstrates a lack of proactive problem solving and can lead to significant business impact, including lost revenue or decreased productivity, and potential breaches of service level agreements. This passive approach erodes stakeholder confidence and can have severe operational and financial repercussions. Implementing a complex, untested routing protocol change without thorough analysis and simulation is a high-risk strategy. While it might theoretically improve path selection, it could introduce instability, routing loops, or unforeseen performance degradation across the entire network. This approach bypasses essential troubleshooting steps and introduces unnecessary complexity and risk, violating the principle of least change and thorough testing in critical network environments. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such issues by first gathering comprehensive information about the application and its performance requirements. This is followed by a detailed network performance analysis using appropriate tools. Solutions should be designed to be targeted, efficient, and minimally disruptive. Prioritization of solutions should be based on their effectiveness in addressing the root cause, their impact on business operations, and their cost-effectiveness. Thorough testing and validation are essential before and after implementation. Question 13. Comparative studies suggest that network engineers often face dilemmas when a critical security vulnerability is identified in a core network device. Considering the potential for widespread service disruption versus the immediate risk of exploitation, which of the following remediation strategies best aligns with professional responsibility and regulatory expectations for maintaining network integrity and security? Option A. Conduct thorough testing of the security patch in a controlled lab environment or a non-production segment of the network before a phased rollout to production devices, with a documented rollback plan. Option B. Apply the security patch only to the most critical network devices and defer patching for less critical devices until a later maintenance window. Option C. Immediately deploy the security patch to all production network devices to eliminate the vulnerability as quickly as possible. Option D. Delay patching the vulnerability until a more convenient time, prioritizing ongoing operational stability over addressing the immediate security risk. The correct answer is C. Immediately deploy the security patch to all production network devices to eliminate the vulnerability as quickly as possible. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network engineering, where a critical security vulnerability is discovered in a widely deployed network device. The professional must balance the immediate need to mitigate risk with the operational impact of implementing a fix. The pressure to act quickly, coupled with the potential for service disruption, requires a thorough understanding of the device's role in the network and the implications of various remediation strategies. The stakeholder perspective is crucial, as decisions impact not only the technical team but also business operations, security posture, and potentially compliance requirements. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased rollout of the security patch, starting with a controlled test environment. This aligns with best professional practices for network change management and risk mitigation. By first validating the patch in a lab or non-production segment, the engineer can identify any unintended consequences, such as performance degradation or compatibility issues, before impacting the production network. This proactive testing minimizes the risk of widespread service outages. Furthermore, it allows for the development of a detailed rollback plan, ensuring that if issues arise, the network can be quickly restored to its previous stable state. This methodical approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to maintaining network stability and security, which are paramount in any regulated environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the patch immediately across all production devices without prior testing represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach disregards the principle of least disruption and introduces an unacceptable level of risk. If the patch causes unforeseen problems, it could lead to a major service outage, potentially violating service level agreements, SLAs, and incurring financial penalties. From a security perspective, while the intent is to fix a vulnerability, the uncontrolled deployment could inadvertently create new security weaknesses or operational blind spots. Applying the patch only to critical devices and delaying it for less critical ones, while seemingly a compromise, still carries risks. The less critical devices might still play a vital role in network segmentation or provide access to sensitive data, and leaving them vulnerable for an extended period increases the attack surface. This selective patching can lead to inconsistent security postures across the network, making it harder to manage and audit. It also fails to address the vulnerability comprehensively, leaving the organization exposed. Ignoring the vulnerability due to the perceived complexity of patching and the potential for downtime is the most egregious failure. This demonstrates a dereliction of professional duty and a disregard for the organization's security and operational integrity. It directly contravenes the ethical obligation to protect the network and its data from known threats. Such an action could lead to severe security breaches, data loss, and significant reputational damage, with potential legal and financial repercussions. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a situation should adopt a structured decision-making process. First, thoroughly assess the severity and exploitability of the vulnerability. Second, understand the impact of the vulnerability on business operations and data security. Third, consult vendor advisories and best practices for patch deployment. Fourth, develop a comprehensive remediation plan that includes testing, phased deployment, and rollback procedures. Fifth, communicate the plan and potential risks to stakeholders, obtaining necessary approvals. Finally, execute the plan meticulously, monitor the network closely, and document all actions taken. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and professional and ethical obligations are met. Question 14. The evaluation methodology shows that a critical business application is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, characterized by increased latency and occasional packet loss, particularly during peak usage hours. Network monitoring indicates that certain network segments are experiencing high bandwidth utilization, but the specific cause of the congestion impacting this application is not immediately apparent. Which of the following approaches best addresses this situation from a network engineering stakeholder perspective? Option A. Advise the application owners to schedule their high-demand operations during off-peak hours to avoid network congestion. Option B. Immediately initiate a project to upgrade the bandwidth of all network links in the affected areas to accommodate anticipated future growth. Option C. Conduct a thorough analysis of network performance metrics across affected segments, correlating application performance data with utilization and error statistics, and then implement quality of service (QoS) policies to prioritize the critical application's traffic. Option D. Perform a full network device reboot across all core and distribution layers to clear any potential transient issues. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough analysis of network performance metrics across affected segments, correlating application performance data with utilization and error statistics, and then implement quality of service (QoS) policies to prioritize the critical application's traffic. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network design and implementation, where a critical business application's performance is degraded due to network congestion. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause accurately and implementing a solution that not only resolves the immediate issue, but also adheres to established network engineering principles and potential regulatory compliance requirements. Though none are explicitly stated as violated here, the implication is that a robust, documented, and justifiable solution is expected. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to hasty decisions, potentially overlooking long-term implications or best practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation. This begins with gathering comprehensive network performance data, including latency, jitter, packet loss, and bandwidth utilization across the relevant network segments. Analyzing this data in conjunction with application-specific performance metrics allows for the identification of bottlenecks. Implementing quality of service (QoS) policies, specifically traffic shaping and policing for the critical application, is a best practice for ensuring its performance during periods of congestion. This approach is justifiable because it is based on empirical evidence, addresses the symptom, congestion, and its impact on the application, and utilizes standard, well-understood network engineering techniques to prioritize critical traffic. This aligns with the professional responsibility to maintain network stability and application availability. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a broad, network-wide bandwidth upgrade without a clear understanding of the specific congestion points is an inefficient and potentially costly solution. It fails to address the root cause if the congestion is localized or application-specific. This approach is professionally questionable because it is not data-driven and may not resolve the issue, leading to wasted resources and continued performance degradation. Simply restarting network devices without proper diagnosis is a reactive measure that might temporarily alleviate symptoms, but does not address the underlying problem. This is a common but unprofessional first step when faced with performance issues, as it bypasses the critical analysis phase and can mask more serious, persistent problems. Implementing a new, unproven routing protocol or complex network feature without thorough testing and a clear understanding of its impact on the critical application is a high-risk strategy. This approach disregards the principle of least change and can introduce new, unforeseen issues, further jeopardizing application performance and network stability. It lacks the due diligence expected of a network engineer. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such issues with a structured methodology. This involves 1. Problem identification and scoping. Clearly define the problem and its impact. 2. Data collection. Gather relevant performance metrics from network devices and applications. 3. Root cause analysis. Analyze the collected data to pinpoint the source of the issue. 4. Solution design. Develop a solution based on the root cause, considering best practices and potential impacts. 5. Implementation and testing. Deploy the solution in a controlled manner and rigorously test its effectiveness. 6. Monitoring and validation. Continuously monitor performance to ensure the solution is effective and sustainable. Question 15. To address the challenge of a critical business application experiencing significant performance degradation due to network congestion, which of the following approaches best aligns with professional network engineering best practices and stakeholder expectations? Option A. Deploy a new, experimental routing protocol across the entire network to see if it improves overall traffic flow. Option B. Advise the business unit to schedule their critical operations during off-peak hours to avoid network congestion. Option C. Implement a comprehensive quality of service (QoS) policy that classifies, marks, queues, and potentially polices traffic, prioritizing the critical application's data flows based on a thorough analysis of network utilization and application requirements. Option D. Immediately increase the available bandwidth allocated to the critical application's network segments without investigating the root cause of the congestion. The correct answer is C. Implement a comprehensive quality of service (QoS) policy that classifies, marks, queues, and potentially polices traffic, prioritizing the critical application's data flows based on a thorough analysis of network utilization and application requirements. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in network design, where a critical business application's performance is degraded due to network congestion. The stakeholder perspective is crucial here, as different departments will have varying priorities and expectations. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for application performance with the broader network stability and resource allocation. A technically sound solution must also be justifiable from a business and operational standpoint, considering the impact on other services and the cost of implementation. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation to identify the root cause of the congestion, and then implementing a targeted quality of service (QoS) policy. This represents best professional practice because it prioritizes business-critical applications, ensures fair resource allocation, and minimizes disruption. By analyzing traffic patterns and implementing QoS mechanisms like classification, marking, queuing, and policing, network engineers can effectively manage bandwidth and prioritize latency-sensitive traffic for the affected application. This aligns with the principles of efficient network management and service level agreements, SLAs, that are implicitly expected in a professional IT environment. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement a blanket bandwidth increase for the application's traffic without proper analysis. This is professionally unacceptable because it is a costly and potentially ineffective solution. It fails to address the underlying cause of congestion, which might be inefficient routing, misconfigured devices, or other traffic impacting the application. Furthermore, it could starve other essential network services of bandwidth, leading to new problems. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the issue, assuming it's a temporary anomaly. This is ethically and professionally negligent, as it directly impacts business operations and user productivity, potentially leading to financial losses for the organization and a loss of trust in the IT department. A third incorrect approach might be to implement a complex, unproven QoS solution without thorough testing or stakeholder buy-in. This risks introducing new network instability and further disrupting business operations, demonstrating a lack of due diligence and professional responsibility. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Understanding the business impact. Quantify the consequences of the application's poor performance. 2. Data collection and analysis. Gather network performance metrics, traffic flow data, and application logs to pinpoint the source of the problem. 3. Solution evaluation. Propose and evaluate multiple solutions, considering their technical feasibility, cost, and impact on other services. 4. Stakeholder communication. Engage with affected business units to explain the problem, propose solutions, and expected outcomes. 5. Implementation and monitoring. Deploy the chosen solution and continuously monitor its effectiveness, making adjustments as needed. Question 16. Quality control measures reveal a critical security vulnerability in the current configuration of a widely deployed routing protocol across the enterprise network. The vulnerability could allow unauthorized access and manipulation of routing information. The network is essential for all business operations, and any significant downtime would be highly detrimental. What is the most professional and responsible approach to remediate this vulnerability? Option A. Apply the security patch and configuration changes to a single, isolated lab router to confirm it boots up correctly, and then consider the remediation complete. Option B. Immediately deploy the security patch and configuration changes to all production routers simultaneously during business hours to ensure the quickest possible resolution. Option C. Develop a comprehensive lab test environment that replicates the production network, create a detailed rollback plan, and then schedule the deployment of the validated changes during a low-impact maintenance window, followed by a phased rollout to production segments. Option D. Implement the security patch and configuration changes on a small subset of non-critical edge routers only, as a precautionary measure, and monitor for any immediate issues. The correct answer is B. Immediately deploy the security patch and configuration changes to all production routers simultaneously during business hours to ensure the quickest possible resolution. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in network design where a critical security vulnerability has been identified in a widely deployed routing protocol configuration. The professional is tasked with addressing this vulnerability without disrupting ongoing business operations, which rely heavily on the stability and availability of the network. The pressure to act quickly is high due to the security implications, but the potential for network instability during remediation adds significant risk. Balancing security requirements with operational continuity is the core professional challenge. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, controlled rollout of the security patch and configuration changes. This aligns with best practices for network change management, emphasizing risk mitigation and service assurance. Specifically, it involves 1. Thorough testing in a lab environment that accurately mirrors the production network's topology and traffic patterns. This ensures the patch and configuration changes do not introduce unforeseen issues. 2. Developing a detailed rollback plan. This is a crucial component of risk management, allowing for rapid restoration of the previous state if problems arise during deployment. 3. Implementing the changes during a scheduled maintenance window. This minimizes the impact on users and business operations by performing the work when network utilization is typically lowest. 4. Gradual deployment to a subset of the network before a full rollout. This allows for real-time monitoring and validation of the changes in a live environment, but with limited scope, further reducing the potential impact of any issues. This methodical approach directly addresses the need for security remediation, while adhering to principles of network stability and operational integrity, which are implicitly governed by the need to maintain a reliable service as expected by stakeholders, and potentially by service-level agreements, SLAs, that are a common feature of enterprise network operations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the patch and configuration changes immediately across the entire production network without prior testing or a rollback plan is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Disregards the fundamental principle of change management and risk assessment. This approach exposes the organization to a high probability of widespread network outages, data loss, or service disruption, which could have severe financial and reputational consequences. It violates the implicit duty of care to ensure network stability and reliability. Applying the patch and configuration changes only to a small, non-critical segment of the network without a plan to extend it to the rest of the infrastructure is also professionally unacceptable. While it might seem like a cautious first step, it leaves the majority of the network vulnerable to the identified security threat. This creates an inconsistent security posture and fails to address the problem comprehensively, potentially leading to a breach in the unpatched segments. It demonstrates a lack of commitment to full security remediation. Forming the changes during peak business hours without adequate planning for potential disruptions is another failure. This directly contradicts the need to minimize impact on business operations. Such an action would likely lead to significant downtime, affecting productivity, customer service, and revenue. It shows a disregard for the operational impact of network changes and a lack of professional judgment in scheduling critical maintenance. Professional reasoning. Professionals in network engineering must adopt a risk-based approach to all network changes. This involves a continuous cycle of assessment, planning, implementation, and verification. When addressing security vulnerabilities, the process must be rigorous, prioritizing thorough testing and a robust rollback strategy. The decision-making process should always consider the potential impact on business operations and the organization's overall security posture. Adherence to established change management processes, even under pressure, is paramount to maintaining network integrity and stakeholder trust. The CCIE routing and switching certification implies a mastery of these principles, ensuring that candidates can design, implement, and manage complex networks with a focus on stability, security, and performance. Question 17. Market research demonstrates that a new real-time video conferencing service requires a highly stable and low-latency network path. The enterprise network currently utilizes a well-established, internally documented routing protocol configuration that has proven reliable over many years. The IT department is considering introducing a newer, more dynamic routing protocol that promises enhanced convergence times, but its security features and integration with the existing infrastructure have not been fully evaluated. From a stakeholder perspective, which approach best balances the need for the new service with the imperative of maintaining network integrity and compliance? Option A. Implement the newer, dynamic routing protocol after a thorough security audit and a phased pilot deployment to assess its stability and compatibility with existing network segments, ensuring all changes are documented and approved through the established change management process. Option B. Continue using the existing, well-documented routing protocol configuration, as its proven stability outweighs the potential benefits of an untested new protocol, and explore alternative methods to optimize the network for the video conferencing service. Option C. Introduce the newer dynamic routing protocol on a limited number of edge routers to provide direct paths for the video conferencing service, without altering the core routing infrastructure to minimize potential disruption. Option D. Immediately deploy the newer dynamic routing protocol across the entire network to leverage its advertised benefits for the new video conferencing service, assuming its advanced features will inherently improve network performance and security. The correct answer is A. Implement the newer dynamic routing protocol after a thorough security audit and a phased pilot deployment to assess its stability and compatibility with existing network segments, ensuring all changes are documented and approved through the established change management process. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in network design and implementation, where the technical requirements of a new service must be balanced against existing operational constraints and regulatory compliance. The CCIE routing and switching exam, particularly the 400-101 version, emphasizes a holistic understanding of network solutions, including their impact on business operations and adherence to industry standards. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring that the chosen routing protocol configuration not only meets the performance demands of the new service, but also aligns with the security and stability mandates that govern the enterprise network. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing network stability and the security implications of any changes. Implementing a protocol that has been rigorously tested within the organization's specific environment and which offers robust security features and predictable behavior is paramount. This aligns with the principle of least privilege and the need for auditable and maintainable network configurations, which are implicitly expected in professional network engineering and often underscored by general IT governance frameworks that guide regulatory compliance. The focus on minimizing disruption and ensuring backward compatibility demonstrates a commitment to operational integrity. An incorrect approach that involves immediately deploying a protocol without adequate testing or consideration for its security implications represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an action could lead to network instability, security vulnerabilities, and potential breaches, which could have severe financial and reputational consequences for the organization. Furthermore, it violates the professional responsibility to implement solutions that are secure, reliable, and compliant with any applicable data protection or operational security guidelines. Deploying a protocol that introduces unnecessary complexity or unknown risks without a clear mitigation strategy is unprofessional and potentially negligent. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on the perceived latest and greatest technology without a proper assessment of its integration and security posture, is also professionally unsound. This can lead to vendor lock-in, increased operational overhead, and the introduction of unproven vulnerabilities. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to consider the long-term implications for the network and the business. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. This includes identifying all technical requirements, evaluating potential solutions against these requirements, assessing the security and stability impact of each solution on the existing infrastructure, consulting with relevant stakeholders, security, operations, business units, conducting pilot testing in a controlled environment, and developing a comprehensive deployment and rollback plan. Adherence to established change management processes and documentation is also critical for ensuring accountability and auditability. Question 18. Process analysis reveals a critical security vulnerability has been identified in a widely used Cisco iOS feature. The vulnerability, if exploited, could lead to significant network compromise. A patch is available, but its implementation requires a device reboot, which could impact network services. The network engineer must decide on the best course of action to address this vulnerability while minimizing operational disruption. Option A. Conduct thorough testing of the patch in a lab environment that replicates the production network, followed by a phased rollout to a pilot group of devices before a full production deployment. Option B. Immediately deploy the patch to all production devices during a scheduled maintenance window, accepting the risk of potential service impact. Option C. Implement the patch only on a small number of non-critical edge devices, leaving the core network unprotected due to the risk of rebooting critical infrastructure. Option D. Postpone the patch implementation indefinitely until a non-disruptive solution can be found, prioritizing network uptime over immediate security remediation. The correct answer is B. Immediately deploy the patch to all production devices during a scheduled maintenance window, accepting the risk of potential service impact. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network engineering where a critical security vulnerability is discovered in a widely deployed Cisco iOS feature. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to mitigate risk with the potential for service disruption caused by implementing a fix. The pressure to act quickly, coupled with the responsibility to maintain network stability and adhere to established change management processes, requires careful judgment. The CCIE Routing and Switching Written Exam 400-101 emphasizes understanding the practical implications of network design and operational decisions, including security and stability. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation of the security patch, starting with a thorough risk assessment and a controlled lab environment. This aligns with best practices for network change management, emphasizing minimal impact on production services. Cisco's own recommended procedures for patching and vulnerability mitigation, which are implicitly part of the knowledge base for the 400-101 exam, advocate for this methodical approach. The regulatory framework for network operations, while not explicitly detailed in the exam syllabus as a separate document, is embedded within the expectation of professional conduct and due diligence. This includes ensuring network integrity and security, which are paramount. A staged rollout, beginning with a lab simulation and then a pilot group, allows for validation of the fix without jeopardizing the entire production network. This demonstrates a commitment to both security and operational continuity, reflecting the professional standards expected of a CCIE. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the patch immediately across all production devices without prior testing is a direct violation of sound network engineering principles and implicitly the expectation of professional responsibility. This approach disregards the potential for unforeseen side effects, such as configuration conflicts or performance degradation, which could lead to widespread outages. Such an action would be professionally negligent, as it prioritizes speed over safety and stability. Applying the patch only to a small subset of non-critical devices, while ignoring the majority of the production network, fails to adequately address the widespread security vulnerability. This creates a significant security gap, leaving a large portion of the network exposed. It demonstrates a lack of comprehensive risk management and an incomplete understanding of the pervasive nature of the threat. Delaying the implementation of the patch indefinitely due to fear of disruption, without exploring mitigation strategies or alternative solutions, is also professionally unacceptable. This inaction allows a known vulnerability to persist, increasing the risk of a successful exploit. It shows a failure to proactively manage security risks and a lack of initiative in finding solutions that balance security with operational requirements. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a situation should employ a structured decision-making framework. This typically involves 1. Risk assessment. Understand the severity of the vulnerability, its exploitability, and the potential impact of a successful attack. 2. Solution evaluation. Research available patches, workarounds, and their documented effects. 3. Impact analysis. Determine the potential consequences of applying the solution to the existing network environment. 4. Testing and validation. Simulate the solution in a lab environment that mirrors the production network as closely as possible. 5. Phased deployment. Implement the solution in stages, starting with a pilot group and gradually expanding to the full production environment with rollback plans in place. 6. Monitoring and verification. Continuously monitor the network for any adverse effects after implementation. This systematic approach ensures that security is enhanced while minimizing the risk of service disruption, adhering to the highest professional standards. Question 19. Consider a scenario where a critical business application is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, leading to user complaints and potential productivity losses. Network monitoring indicates that the application traffic is being significantly impacted by other, less critical network traffic. A network engineer proposes implementing a quality of service (QoS) policy to prioritize the critical applications traffic. However, the proposed QoS configuration involves making direct changes to access control lists (ACL) and interface configuration that have historically been managed under strict change control due to their security implications. The engineer is under pressure to resolve the performance issue quickly. What is the most appropriate course of action for the network engineer? Option A. Document the proposed QoS changes, assess their potential security implications, and submit a formal change request to the appropriate change advisory board for review and approval before implementation. Option B. Implement a temporary, less restrictive QoS policy that prioritizes the application traffic without modifying the existing ACLs, and then address the security implications later. Option C. Advise management that the performance issue is a low priority and can be addressed in a future network refresh cycle, as altering existing configurations carries inherent risks. Option D. Immediately implement the proposed QoS changes to address the critical performance issue, as the business impact is significant and requires swift resolution. Correct answer is D. Immediately implement the proposed QoS changes to address the critical performance issue, as the business impact is significant and requires swift resolution. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the inherent tension between network performance optimization and adherence to established security policies, particularly within the context of enterprise network design and implementation. The CCIE Routing and Switching Certification 400-101 emphasizes a deep understanding of how to design, implement, and troubleshoot complex networks while considering factors like security, scalability, and efficiency. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for improved application performance against the potential risks introduced by bypassing or altering established security controls. The correct approach, which involves a formal change control process and thorough security impact assessment, represents best professional practice because it upholds the integrity of the network's security posture. This aligns with general IT governance principles and the implicit requirement within any professional networking role to operate within defined security frameworks. While the 400-101 exam does not prescribe specific regulatory bodies for this context, it operates under the assumption of responsible network management, which inherently includes risk mitigation. Bypassing security measures, even for performance reasons, introduces vulnerabilities that could be exploited, leading to data breaches, service disruptions, or compliance violations if specific industry regulations were applicable. A formal change process ensures that all stakeholders are aware of the proposed modification, its potential impact is evaluated, and appropriate approvals are obtained, thereby maintaining accountability and minimizing unforeseen negative consequences. An incorrect approach that involves immediately implementing the proposed CoS changes without proper authorization or assessment fails to acknowledge the critical role of security in network design. This bypasses established protocols designed to protect the network and its data. The regulatory/ethical failure here is a disregard for established security policies and a lack of due diligence. Such an action could lead to a security incident, which, depending on the organization's industry and location, could have significant legal and financial repercussions, even if not explicitly detailed in the 400-101 syllabus. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the performance issue as a non-critical problem and defer any action, is also professionally unsound. While it avoids introducing new risks, it fails to address a legitimate operational concern that is impacting business productivity. This demonstrates a lack of proactive problem solving and could lead to user dissatisfaction and decreased efficiency, ultimately undermining the network's purpose. The ethical failure here is a dereliction of duty to maintain an optimal and functional network environment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the problem. Clearly define the performance issue and its impact. 2. Identify potential solutions. Brainstorm various technical approaches to resolve the issue. 3. Assess risks and benefits. For each potential solution, evaluate the performance gains against security, operational, and compliance risks. 4. Consult policies and procedures. Determine if the proposed solution aligns with existing organizational policies, including change management and security guidelines. 5. Engage stakeholders. Communicate the problem and propose solutions to relevant parties, including security teams, management, and affected users. 6. Formalize changes. If a solution is approved, follow the established change control process for implementation and verification. 7. Document and monitor. Record all changes and continuously monitor the network to ensure the solution is effective and has not introduced new issues. Question 20. The investigation demonstrates that a critical business application is experiencing intermittent connectivity issues, impacting user productivity. A senior engineer proposes a temporary configuration change to a firewall rule that is believed to be the cause, suggesting it can be reverted once the immediate business impact is mitigated. However, this proposed change has not undergone the standard change control process or a formal security review. What is the most appropriate course of action for the network administrator? Option A. Document the proposed change and its potential impact, escalate the issue to the network security team for an expedited review, and await their approval before making any modifications. Option B. Advise the senior engineer to revert to the previous stable configuration and inform management that the issue will be addressed through the standard change management process, even if it means continued intermittent disruptions. Option C. Implement the proposed firewall rule change immediately to restore connectivity, and then initiate the change control process and security review retrospectively. Option D. Proceed with the configuration change as suggested by the senior engineer, assuming their expertise and the urgency of the situation justify bypassing standard procedures. The correct answer is C. Implement the proposed firewall rule change immediately to restore connectivity, and then initiate the change control process and security review retrospectively. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the inherent conflict between immediate operational needs and the long-term integrity of network security protocols. The network administrator is faced with a situation where a critical business function is experiencing intermittent connectivity issues, and a quick, albeit potentially risky, workaround is proposed. The challenge lies in balancing the urgency of restoring service with the adherence to established security policies and best practices, which are designed to prevent vulnerabilities. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, systematic investigation, aligned with established troubleshooting methodologies and security protocols. This involves engaging the appropriate technical teams, documenting the issue and proposed solutions, and seeking formal approval before implementing any changes that could impact the network's security posture. This aligns with the principles of responsible network management, which emphasize risk mitigation, change control, and maintaining the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of network resources. Adhering to these principles ensures that any implemented solution is not only effective, but also secure and auditable. An incorrect approach that involves immediately implementing the proposed workaround without proper validation or approval represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This bypasses established change management procedures, which are often mandated by organizational policies and in some regulated industries by external compliance frameworks. Such an action could introduce unforeseen security vulnerabilities, potentially leading to data breaches, service disruptions, or non-compliance with industry standards. It demonstrates a disregard for risk assessment and could expose the organization to significant financial and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the issue until a more convenient time, is also professionally unacceptable. This failure to act promptly on a critical business function's connectivity problem can lead to escalating operational impact and customer dissatisfaction. Ethically, network professionals have a responsibility to maintain the availability and performance of the systems they manage. Delaying action without a clear justification and communication plan is a dereliction of duty. Professional reasoning framework that should be applied in such situations involves a structured decision-making process. 1. Problem identification and assessment. Clearly define the issue and its impact on business operations. 2. Information gathering. Collect all relevant data including logs, error messages, and user reports. 3. Hypothesis generation. Develop potential causes for the problem. 4. Solution exploration. Brainstorm possible solution, considering both immediate workarounds and long-term fixes. 5. Risk assessment. Evaluate the potential risks associated with each proposed solution, particularly concerning security and operational stability. 6. Consultation and approval. Engage relevant stakeholders and obtain formal approval for any proposed changes, especially those that deviate from standard operating procedures. 7. Implementation and verification. Execute the approved solution and thoroughly test to ensure the problem is resolved and no new issues have been introduced. 8. Documentation. Record all steps taken, decisions made, and outcomes. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and actions are aligned with organizational policies and professional ethics.